What's up everyone and welcome back to the World History Channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. The fascinating story behind the girl with the Mojave tattoo. Olive Oatman, a 19-year-old girl from Arizona, sparked a lot of controversy in 1856. The daughter of white settlers who were murdered on their way to California, she emerged from years of being a captive of the Mojave tribe with a striking and distinctive blue tattoo on her chin. So who was Olive Oatman? And how did she come to live with the Mojave? Her story is one of extreme tragedy that also captures the incredible strength of the human spirit. The American public was fascinated by Olivia Oatman, and the stories of her time as a captive continue to spark interest to this day. It was said that she carried around a Mojave staple, a jar of hazelnuts, for the rest of her life to keep in mind her experiences as she went from desert pioneer to orphaned Native American captive. Settlers and Native Americans engaged in intense conflict in the desert at the time. In the days of the Oregon Trail, travelers headed west were exposed to serious danger, but many of them packed up and left the East anyway. The Mormon Holy Lands in Utah and California drew settlers from across the continent in addition to the enticing gold rush. It was only a matter of time before conflicts began to break out as a result of the large number of white travelers passing through Native American tribal lands in the plains and desert. There were numerous accounts of settlers clashing with natives, typically over issues related to a lack of resources in a region of the country where there was already a shortage of food and water. Most of Olive's family were killed in a raid. Royce, Mary, and their 7 children, the Oatman family, were traveling from Illinois to Missouri in 1850 to join other Mormons. They belonged to the Brewsterites sect of the Mormon religion, which held the belief that California, not Utah, was where the true Mormon gatherings took place. They were attacked and separated from the other families traveling with them on the extremely risky westward trail in Arizona. A group of Native Americans slaughtered the Oatman family, killing both parents and 4 of the 7 children. Olive's 15-year-old brother Lorenzo was wounded and left for dead, while she and her sister Mary managed to survive mostly unharmed. The Yavapai took Olive Oatman and her younger sister hostage. Although Olive initially identified her kidnappers as Apaches, it is much more likely that the tribe was one of the Yavapai subgroups. Historians have used clues like how much and how far they traveled as well as what they ate to determine their course, but it's unlikely that the name of the tribe made any difference to 14-year-old Olive and 7-year-old Mary at the time. After the sisters were taken away, they spent a full year living as slaves among the Yavapai. They were traded to the Mojave tribe, where they were given their tattoos. Olive and Mary were sold to the Mojaves for a year as slaves. They lived a much better life with their new captors, not as slaves but more like adopted tribal members. That's where Olive received the tattoo that she would carry for the rest of her life. Some claim that the tattoos marked them as slaves, but in reality, tattooing of this nature was a Mojave tradition, and it may have been done to the girls to signify their membership in the tribe. Olive and Mary could have left, but they didn't. The 2 girls appear to have settled in well with the Mojave, blending in with their new adopted family and developing strong bonds with their new sister and mother. They were treated far better than they were with the Yavapai, and were no longer used as slaves. When a group of around 200 white surveyors came and spent a week with the Mojave, they had many chances to reveal their identities and escape back to white settlements, but they didn't. Some believe that they remained silent because they thought the new family they had grown accustomed to was all they had left in the world. Mary died while in captivity with the Mojaves. Despite the fact that the 2 girls had a relatively easy life with the Mojave family, the desert was never without danger. In 1855, a drought swept through the region. The resulting famine took the lives of many Mojaves and Mary She would have been around 10 years old. Olive was rescued in a trade and released back into settler life. There were rumors that a white girl was living among the Mojave shortly after Mary death. Once word got out, the white settlers tried to get Olive back by negotiating a trade with the tribe. The tribe wanted to keep her and Olive wanted to stay, but eventually the Mojave gave in to their fear of the U.S. government and negotiated. The government got Olive as well as her adopted Mojave sister Topeka in exchange for some blankets, beads, and a horse. Olive cried as she parted ways at Fort Yuma with the only sister she had left. Olive eventually reunited with her brother. The 15-year-old Lorenzo may have been left for dead back in 1850, but he somehow survived the attack on his family with a nasty head wound. He eventually made it back to the other families that had stayed behind at the village of Maricopa Wells. The fellow settlers helped him return to the scene of the attack, and they gave his family as close to a proper burial as they could. Mary Ann and Olive were never found by Lorenzo, and when Olive was freed in 1856, the two siblings were finally reunited. They met up in the nearby town of Fort Yuma, and the event made it to the national headlines. They moved to Oregon soon afterward and lived together until Olive met and married a Texas rancher. Olive and Lorenzo's education were paid for by a book about her time in captivity. Olive gained notoriety after the Mojave granted her release. Everyone wanted to know her story and how she had survived her years among the Native Americans. A writer by the name of Royal B. Stratton wrote a book about her and Mary Ann's experience titled Life Among the Indians. It made enough money to pay for Olive and Lorenzo's education, and Olive went on tour, lecturing about her experience to promote the book. While on tour, she met John Brant Fairchild, who would become her husband. Her family were reburied several times before being given an official site and marker. After the raid, Lorenzo Oatman was able to go back and bury his family, but they were moved years later. They were buried 3 times, according to some historians. Oddly enough, when researchers discovered the graves, they found one extra body, an unknown male that has not been identified. In her name, the town of Oatman, Arizona, is named the small town of Oatman, Arizona, started out as nothing more than a cluster of miners living in tents. It quickly expanded once gold was discovered nearby, but only to roughly 3,500 people. Today, it's preserved as an authentic Old West town, complete with staged gunfights and even wild burros roaming the streets. The town has weathered a number of devastating storms thanks to its reputation as a tourist destination, including a fire in the 1920s and the closure of Route 66 in the 1960s. The TV show Hell on Wheels featured a character loosely based on Olive Oatman. The AMC television series Hell on Wheels featured a character named Eva who was loosely based on Olive Oatman's life story. Very loosely. The fictional character's life took quite a different turn after escaping from captivity, despite the fact that he was kidnapped by the Yavapai and had a face tattoo that was similar to Olive's. In spite of the loose nature of the character profile, AMC still acknowledges the true story with a profile about Olive Oatman on their official blog. The fascinating story behind the girl with the Mojave tattoo. Olive Oatman, a 19-year-old woman, captivated the American public in 1856 with her extraordinary tale of captivity, survival, and cultural acculturation. Emerging from the Mojave Desert with a striking blue tattoo on her chin, Olive's story became a symbol of resilience and the complexities of cross-cultural encounters in 19th-century America. Early life and tragedy. Born on September 7, 1837, in La Harpe, Illinois, Olive and Oatman was the third of 7 children in the Oatman family. The family, who belonged to the Brewsterite sect of the Mormon religion, set out on a journey west in 1850 to join other Mormons in California. Their path led them through the Arizona Territory, where, in March 1851, tragedy struck. The Oatman family was attacked by a group of Native Americans, likely Tokpayas, Western Yavapai, who killed her parents and 4 siblings, leaving Olive and her younger sister, Mary Ann, to be taken captive. Yavapai captivity in the Southwest initially. Olive and Mary Ann were held by the Yavapai tribe. During this period, they were subjected to harsh conditions and laborious tasks. Olive later talked about the fear and uncertainty they felt because they were treated like slaves and kept being threatened with violence. Despite the grim circumstances, the sisters managed to survive, relying on each other for support and strength. Transfer to the Mojave tribe. After a year with the Yavapai, the sisters were traded to the Mojave tribe. This transfer marked a turning point in their lives. Recognizing the sisters' predicament, the Mojave people treated them with greater consideration and integration. They were given their own plots of land to cultivate, and Olive received a distinctive blue tattoo on her chin, a traditional Mojave practice for women. This tattoo was not a mark of slavery, as some have suggested, but a symbol of belonging and identity within the tribe. Life among the Mojave. During her time with the Mojave, Olive adopted the name Och and was considered a full member of the tribe. She and Mary and integrated into the community, participating in daily activities such as farming, foraging, and social rituals. The sisters formed close bonds with their new family, especially with Espanio, the Mojave chief's wife, and Topeka, the chief's daughter, who had helped them get here. Olive found stability and a sense of belonging in these relationships during a turbulent time in her life. The death of Mary Ann. The region experienced a severe drought in 1855, which resulted in a devastating famine. The scarcity of food took a toll on the Mojave community, and tragically, Mary Ann succumbed to starvation. Olive's captivity was marked by a profound moment of loss and grief caused by her sister's death. Return to white society. The authorities at Fort Yuma heard about a white woman living among the Mojave in 1856. A Yuma Indian messenger was dispatched to negotiate Olive's release. The Mojave were initially reluctant to give her up for fear of government retaliation. However, after negotiations involving trade goods and assurances of safety, Olive was escorted back to Fort Yuma. Olive went through a variety of emotions during the 20-day journey, including reluctance to leave her adopted family and anticipation of reuniting with any surviving relatives. Reuniting with her brother. Upon her return to Fort Yuma, Olive discovered that her older brother Lorenzo had survived the initial attack and had been searching for her ever since. The reunion was a poignant moment, bringing closure to the years of uncertainty and separation. The siblings' story garnered national attention, highlighting the resilience of the human spirit amidst adversity. Later life and legacy. Following her return to white society, Olive and Lorenzo were taken in by Reverend Royal Byron Stratton, who had been instrumental in publicizing their story. Stratton co-authored a book titled Life Among the Indians, detailing the Oatman sisters' experiences.